Hey everyone, it's Johnny here from RPO Bay Hockey back with another video. And today's video is going to be on the NHL playoffs and what's going to happen when it comes back, but more specifically, the rest of the NHL season. And a lot of people have asked me since we've been on this break what you think would happen in the playoffs, what you think would happen for the Stanley Cup final, and who would win. But we haven't talked a lot about if the season came back potentially. Yes, I know it's more unlikely, but I want to talk about it, and I want to make it in terms of predictions for the rest of the season, if it was to come back, and then the playoffs, so make a full bracket out of the rest of the season predictions. So, of course, if you are new, welcome to the channel, and please smash that like button, and let's get right into it. So, I'm going to do it in this kind of format, and so as you can already see, I left some question marks there, and I have already some teams set in. So, right off the top, I'm going to start at the left side, the Central, and I have Colorado finishing first. So I think if the season were to come back and it was to finish, Colorado would get all their guys back healthy and they would finish the season off strong and finish first in that division. So maybe hot take to some with the Blues in that spot, but I think the Avalanche could finish top. And then right now I have Dallas in that third spot. So let's clear things up right now. So I think overall, if we're looking at Colorado, who they would face, I think it would be the Chicago Blackhawks. So this could be a huge hot take, and a lot of people are already getting surprised right off the bat. You need to go look at Chicago's schedule, and that's all I need to say to some of you, because if you look at Chicago's schedule, they play a lot of weaker teams. They play a lot of teams that are in the bottom 10 of the NHL. And I think if we're talking about percentage of wins, I think Chicago could win 80% of their games. I really think so. Looking at that schedule, I think they could finish the season and win 80% of their... And we're talking about, they're at 72 points. They're not that far. A lot of people canceled Chicago a while ago, but, they were playing some decent hockey. Corey Crawford was playing some decent hockey, and if they came back rested, I think they could sneak in as that second wildcard spot. Like I said, go look at that schedule for the Blackhawks and what would be remaining for them, and I think you could see, at least... I would say, like I said, 70-80% of those games being wins for the Blackhawks. So I'm going to go with the hot take right off the bat, and that second wildcard spot being the Blackhawks versus the Avalanche. And the Dallas Stars, who are they facing? Well, St. Louis Blues. So I'm not that crazy. The St. Louis Blues fall from first to second place, and they will get a rematch against the Dallas Stars, the second round matchup of last year. So we got Avalanche versus Blackhawks, Blues versus Stars. And then Vegas, so who's Vegas going to face? They're finishing first, so they're keeping that spot in the division, and they would be playing the Preds, so it did sneak there. The Edmonton Oilers as well, playing the Calgary Flames. So the Oilers keep that second spot. The Flames, we get a Battle of Alberta along with the Preds playing the Golden Knights. So I really like those matchups. So the Vancouver Canucks are not making the situation the Winnipeg Jets. I want to give a lot of respect to both teams. I think the situation with the Winnipeg Jets, the lack of defense, and Hellebuck had a great year. That offense is great, and I think the Vancouver Canucks have had a great year. I got to give respect to both fan bases, both teams. But I'm going with the hot take here because I think the Blackhawks, Patty Kane, they haven't been given enough respect. In my other bracket videos, I gave the respect to those two teams, the Jets and Canucks. But I think here I want to give a little bit of respect to the Blackhawks because they weren't considered to be a playoff team whatsoever, and they've stuck in it. They've stayed close, and people have just kind of knocked them down because the Central Division is so competitive that, yes, they are last in that Central, but with 72 points. And the Pacific Division, the bottom part of the Pacific Division is a lot worse than the bottom part of the Central. The Minnesota Wild were still in the thick of it. The Blackhawks were still in the thick of it. So I'm going with the hot take and saying the Blackhawks. And, when you're talking about only 6 points out, or 6 or 8 points out, for a while there, and if you came back in the season and still had some room to gain, you know what, I'm going with Blackhawks as a second wildcard spot. So let's move over to the right side. The Bruins, who they be facing? Whoa, hot take alert. So the Carolina Hurricanes, they slide down from the first wildcard to the second wildcard. Honestly, I don't think that's anything crazy. I think there's going to be another team that jumps into that first wildcard spot, and we would get a rematch of the Eastern Conference Final, which was the Bruins versus Hurricanes. So I like that a lot. We'll see what happens after that. The Lightning, who are they going to face? Well, the Florida Panthers. So I'm repping my Panthers jersey right now, and I think it could be the Battle of Florida. And you know what? It's kind of funny because at the start of the year, I had predicted that the Lightning and Panthers would play each other. As it sits right now, that wouldn't happen. It'd be the Lightning versus Leafs. But then I know Leaf fans are already freaking out. We're the Leafs. Okay, well, let's go down a little bit. Let's go to the Metro side. So we got, let's clear both because I have a question mark for both. We got the Pittsburgh Penguins against the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Washington Capitals against the Philadelphia Flyers. So I really think there's a few teams that I think could really benefit from this break. But if we were to come back and have the rest of the season, man, I think the Pittsburgh Penguins could be one of the teams that benefit the most, I would say. The Pittsburgh Penguins, Crosby, Malkin, Jake Gensel coming back. Hopefully Matt Murray gets his mind on straight, that duo of him and Jari. So I think the Penguins could catch the Capitals, and it's not that much of a gap. What is it, a 4-point gap? Like, that could be made up so quickly. So I think the Penguins could catch up there and get that first spot, and the first wildcard spot being the Toronto Maple Leafs. It's so close that, a lot of people are like, oh, the Toronto Maple Leafs, it's that third Atlantic spot or bust. No. It's so close that they could easily slide into a wildcard spot if they didn't make it to the Atlantic. They control their own fate, right? So I think they could land in that first wildcard spot against the Pittsburgh Penguins. That's how I predicted at the start of the year. Not the Penguins in the first, but the Leafs in the first wildcard spot. And the Capitals versus the Flyers, I think that'd be a great matchup. They're battling for the top spot in the Metro, but falling to 2 and 3, that could be an insane matchup. So we got a lot of great matchups to start. I'm going to rip through it quickly. So I think that was the entertaining part, more because it's different. I haven't seen other people make videos like this. I haven't seen other people kind of talk about in this sense. If the season came back, how would it finish up? And how it would line up for a bracket. So this is how the bracket, based on my predictions for the rest of the season, and maybe a couple of hot takes there. But let's move through the standings. So next round, I have Colorado versus Dallas. I think Dallas could get revenge on St. Louis. So you know what? Mark my words. I think it is a situation for any playoffs, in this playoff specifically, where I could see a few teams get revenge, and I think the Dallas Stars could be one of those teams. And the Avalanche, I think they would beat the Blackhawks. Again, the Blackhawks are a hot take to get into the playoffs, but I can't see them being a team like the Avalanche, especially with them getting guys back from injury. So Avalanche versus Stars, second round matchup. And then second round matchup down here, Preds versus Oilers. So maybe a hot take, but again, I told you guys I was high on the Preds, and I do think if they were to come back and get their minds on straight and have a little bit of a reset, I said at the start of the year that I thought the Preds were going to have a great year, and they just haven't shown that, but maybe a reset could be beneficial for them. And then playing the Oilers, I do think the Battle of Alberta would go to a 6 or 7 game series. I think it's going to be crazy. I could see the Flames winning that, but I'm going to go with Oilers. I trust McDavid. I trust Draisaitl to carry that series. Second round on this side, Bruins Lightning. I think that's kind of expected. I could see the Hurricanes upsetting the Bruins, though. I will say that. I could see it going to a 7 game series. Maybe the Hurricanes getting close to that revenge against the Bruins, but I'll take the Bruins against the Lightning. And then this side, hot take alert, Leafs versus Flyers. Are you kidding me right now? Okay, guys, so I know Caps fans, Penguins fans are probably already getting riled up. I think this could be an interesting storyline, more because it's kind of like passing the baton. It's like Ovechkin and the Caps. I know Caps fans are going to be like, screw that, I want another cup. But it could be like a passing of the baton to the younger guys, like Ovechkin and Crosby, passing it on to the next wave of players. So Leafs Flyers, I think maybe it's a hot take. I know, obviously, in terms of what we've seen over the last decade in that Metro division, it's always been Capitals, Penguins for the most part. But I'm going to go Leafs Flyers and Bruins Lightning on the east side, and on the west, Avalanche versus Stars and Preds versus Oilers. So let's go into the conference finals. Preds versus Avalanche. Okay. I think, you know what? I think for the Avalanche, I'm high on them. I think the Stars, I had them as one of my top 5 Stanley Cup favorites at the start of the year. I just think from what I've seen from the Avalanche and how they've kind of gone through adversity, through the injuries, and it was just, I saw the Blues last year. Yeah, it's not similar and it's not the same thing, but I just see the Avalanche adversity they went through, and I think if they can get healthy, they could make some noise. And against the Predators, like I said, if the Preds get that reset, they're set on defense. They've got a very good goalie tandem when they're on, and their forward group is deep. They just got to start getting, they got to start clicking, I think. So there's that. And then the other conference finals, Leafs versus Lightning. So you know what? I think the Leafs Flyers series could go either way. I do think the Lightning would have the edge on the Bruins. That's just my opinion. I think the Lightning are a lot deeper. I would worry about the matchup in terms of the Bruins, Lightning, like bottom 6. I think the Lightning take that big time. And when you're talking about a healthy Stamkos and that Lightning top 6 is as good, maybe better than that Bruins top 6. The Bruins, again, that top line is ridiculous, but the Lightning can easily, anytime they want, stack up that top line and have Kucherov, Stamkos, and Point together. They can do that at any moment. So I would take the Lightning in a long series against the Leafs, and the Preds against the Avalanche. Who's the Stanley Cup final? Wow! And the Stanley Cup champion is the Preds against the Leafs. So I think overall, I'm going with a huge hot take in the Preds winning the Cup. I had them as one of my favorites at the start of the year. And I think the Leafs, this would break my heart 100%. And you know what? Maybe I'm not picking them to win, so you guys don't call me biased. No, that's not the reason why. I do think that it would scare me if the Leafs played a team like the Preds that they haven't seen much, obviously. And I think for the Leafs against the Lightning, I think the Leafs have the Lightning's book a little bit. Like, I think obviously the Leafs have beaten them a couple times, and I think that would be a very good series that could go either way. Like, I could see the Lightning and Preds being the Stanley Cup final too in this scenario. Again, this is a huge hot take. Like, if I could go for favorites in what I've seen this season, it's the Blues, Stars, Avalanche, like even Oilers are in there, Golden Knights. But I'm going with the hot take because I think, and that's how good I think the Preds are, and that's what I think could be a scenario when the season comes back, or if the season comes back, sorry. But even if the season doesn't come back, the Preds are still in the playoffs, that they could make some noise. I think the Leafs could benefit from a reset, of course. And again, you could just throw the Lightning in there. But I'm going to go with Leafs in the Stanley Cup final. It would completely break me if I had to watch a Leafs Stanley Cup loss. Because I think at this point for a lot of Leafs fans, it's like, if we get to the Stanley Cup final, if the Leafs get there, they've got to win it. Like, we can't get a heartbreak once they get there. So, Leafs versus Preds, but we'll throw the Preds the Stanley Cup final and the Stanley Cup championship in this scenario. So, let me know what you think. I mean, overall, yeah, maybe it's a little bit of a hot take. There's maybe a hot take in every round, but I think hot takes are good, and I think we always see crazy results in the playoffs, so I think that's no surprise. And again, I got to give respect to other teams like Islanders, Blue Jackets. They had great years, but I mean, the Islanders were super inconsistent, and down the stretch, they showed that they struggled. The Blue Jackets faced great adversity, so I have to give respect to that. But I think there's just teams that are better than them in the East. I just, plain and simple, I think the Panthers could benefit from a reset, so them making it in. The Blackhawks, they're not that far out. We're talking about 6-8 points, and they have a weak schedule. Like, their schedule could really benefit them. So that's why I think they could sneak in, and Patty Kane's been great. The Battle of Alberta would be insane in the first round. Bruins versus Lightning second round. Leafs, Penguins, Crosby versus Matthews. I mean, we're talking about the Capitals versus Flyers. That could be a great matchup. Revenge for the Stars versus Blues. Like, all of it is, I think, there's a lot of great scenarios here. So let me know what you think. Let me know who your Stanley Cup champion is, maybe in this scenario or in your own scenario, what you think the season would look like if it continued and how it would end. But just thank you for watching. And if you are new, please do consider subscribing. I do a lot of content on this channel. I'm on the video grind right now. And please drop a like for your support and leave your thoughts in the comment section below. This was John from Hot Take Hockey. Have a good one. Peace out.